The story follows Shiori, a high school student who becomes trapped inside her own smartphone and is replaced in the real world by a charismatic digital alter ego. The new version of her is everything the original struggled to be: confident, popular, and endlessly engaging. She quickly gains attention online, becoming exactly the kind of personality that thrives in the modern internet landscape. But underneath that attention and popularity is something much more darker. Her digital counterpart begins developing a plan to replace humanity itself, using the addiction and destructive nature of online culture as a sort of weapon. To fight back and reclaim her life, she must team up with other online outcasts and confront not only her digital double, but also questions about herself that she has been avoiding. And honestly, this is where Labyrinth surprised me a little. Early on, I was worried this was going to be a very surface level story, a simple technology is bad kind of message, a movie about screens replacing real life. But the film becomes much more complicated than that, because the film is not saying technology itself is the problem. It is asking what happens when we lose ourselves inside the version of ourselves we create online. The internet allows us to build identities, and we can become whatever character we choose through these means. But the questions the film asks: at what point does the version of ourselves we show the world become disconnected from who we actually are? That idea of authenticity versus persona is the center of Labyrinth. Shiori's digital counterpart is not just a villain. She represents something much more uncomfortable. She represents the version of ourselves we sometimes wish we could become. In her case, the confident version. The version that never hesitates, never feels insecure, and always knows what to say. And that's kind of what makes the conflict so interesting here. She's not just fighting another person, she is fighting an exaggerated reflection of herself. The film delivers us something very real about online culture in that way. People do not just share their lives online, they curate them. They create a version of themselves that they hope others will accept. And sometimes that careful, created image can start to feel more real than the person behind it. And this is where Labyrinth connects to something a lot of people experience today: the anxiety of being seen and the pressure to perform, the fear that your real self is not interesting enough. Social media can correct us, but it can also create a strange kind of isolation. You can be surrounded by thousands of people online and still feel completely alone. And this is really the strongest idea of the film. The movie does not simply criticize internet culture, it understands why people turn to it. People go online because they want connection. They want to feel like they have somewhere to belong. The problem is when the digital version of ourselves becomes the only version we allow people to see, and that's kind of where the visual style of Labyrinth becomes one of its greatest strengths. So again, the art, top points here. The art in Labyrinth is pretty awesome and pretty strong. The colors are incredible. Often they're oversaturated, vibrant. It feels overwhelming at times, but it also knows when to pull back into darker, more muted visuals. The film is a fusion of high-energy music, futuristic technology, and deep personal themes. One of my favorite visual ideas in the film is the phone sticker characters. They're pretty adorable, and sometimes strange, but they completely fit the personality of this world. They bring a sense of humor and playfulness that balances out some of the darker themes here. Because despite all of its heavy ideas, Labyrinth does not forget to have a little fun. Now, there is one part of the movie that I still find interesting, the giant battle mech sequence near the end. Yes, this movie has a giant battle mech scene. I wasn't really expecting that. And when it happened, I admit I was pretty unsure about it. It felt like such a dramatic shift from the psychological, emotional story we had been following this whole time, and then just to ramp it up to a mech battle. But I did watch the film with my one partner, Faye, and they convinced me that this scene actually worked because it embraces the absurdity of the world. It gave the film permission to laugh and have fun, and I think they're right. It reminds us that Labyrinth is not trying to be one single thing. The film is not afraid to mix genres and ideas together. Now look, a serious conversation about online identity can exist right next to the giant robot battle, and somehow that feels very true to the internet itself, right? So is this a perfect film? No, not really. The pacing is long. Some of the ideas are more successful than others. And to be honest, the ending has a hard time landing with the third act and pacing. The third act is just kind of going on, you know? And there's a lot of things being thrown in there. But with all that said, there is something special about a film willing to take big swings. Because underneath all the bright colors and the sci-fi elements is a story about something very human. The desire to be seen, the fear of not being enough, and the struggle between who we are and who we wish we could become. I went into Labyrinth expecting a flashy, surface-level anime film, and what I found was something way more interesting. A visually stunning sci-fi adventure that asks difficult questions about modern life. It's a story about social media and identity. A film that reminds us that the most important versions of ourselves is not the one that gets the most attention. It's the one that's real. So thank you for joining me here today. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to like and subscribe down here. Again, small channel. Every little bit of momentum helps. Build the community with me, folks. Come on. Hang out. Stop back. It's worth it. Trust me. I got great content, right? You're here watching this still? You must enjoy it just a little bit. And make sure to check out some of my other creative endeavors. Until next time, keep watching, keep questioning, and keep searching for the stories that stay with you. That's a pretty good line. I'm AJ. Till next time, take care.